Hello, my name is Dr. Sarandi, and today we're going to talk about what implications the use of English as a lingua franca have for language classes. We know that these days English is used as a lingua franca. It means that English is used for communication among people, and these people usually don't have English as their first language. For example, Turkish students may use English to communicate with a Syrian student, or a Chinese may use English to communicate with someone from Germany. An interesting fact about the use of English as a lingua franca is that the people who use English to communicate among each other and who don't have English as their mother tongue outnumber the native speakers. 75% of the people who use English to communicate with each other don't use English as their native language. One of the major principles of ALF-informed language teaching is reflected at the level of the objectives of the lesson. So there is a change in the objectives of lessons. We no longer expect our students to reach the native speaker proficiency because we believe this level it's very hard to achieve, at least for majority of our students. So we're not looking for perfection. So our approach is more pragmatic here. We are mostly looking for successful communication, the ability to transfer messages. We are interested in the type of students who can communicate, and once they run into a problem, they are capable of using communication strategies like negotiation for meaning in order to resolve communication breakdown. Of course, students may choose to pronounce like native speakers. There is nothing wrong with it. Well, the fact is that we don't want to put the bars so high for everyone because we believe that not everybody can reach that bar. Only exceptional people can reach. And when you put it so high, it may just disappoint people when they cannot perform like native speakers. We have to give them the feeling that it's fine if you cannot sound like native speakers. In terms of grammar, for example, the concept of accuracy is usually viewed situationally. By situation, I mean we might expect our students to be very accurate when they are in very formal contexts. For example, if they are writing an application form, or if they are writing a proposal, or if you are writing or submitting a report, you might expect from them to become more accurate. However, if they are having a informal communication, informal chat with their friends outside in the dormitory, it's fine if there are occasional departure from standard English. If native speakers' standard use of language is no longer the objective, this may have implications for the type of materials that we use in the classroom. So if our students are going to communicate with other non-native speakers, then we have to expose our students to the use of language by other non-native speakers. So in other words, we may just bring listening texts and maybe videos from interaction between other non-native speakers. And similarly, in terms of culture, we want to develop people's intercultural competence. So we no longer expect our students to understand just native speakers' culture. We expect them to develop this sensitivity to cultural varieties that they may find in other non-native speakers. So that may require the introduction of texts from non-native countries. We might need to take to the classroom not only the texts related to native speakers, but also texts related to non-native speakers' culture as well. Another major principle of ALF-aware language class is reflected the way the role of language teachers viewed, especially the role of non-native language teachers. We said that they used to believe that reaching native language proficiency is the objective of language classes. So who can teach students to reach that objective better than native speakers? After all, native speakers have this intuitive feeling of what is right and wrong. And they also can expose students to right model of language use. So they believe that native speakers are best candidates for becoming classroom teachers because they could provide the ideal model for the students. However, we said that this view has changed. Now, people are more interested in successful communication rather than sounding like a native speaker or using standard English. So they started questioning the role of language teachers as well. So they come up with the idea that native speakers are not necessarily better language teachers, and they believe that non-native language teachers might also be at least as effective as native language teachers. And of course, they have some points. Non-native language teachers have already learned one or two languages. They have already gone through this difficult process of learning a second language. So they are familiar with ups and downs, with the difficulties that the students may go through, and they also know the tricks and the strategies that the second language learner need to know in order to increase the speed of learning process. Some also argue that they are also good models, as they show the students that they can speak in their L1, the first language, and at the same time they can develop their proficiency in another language. So they are also good models for language learners. So eventually, I believe that you cannot state that native speakers are superior to non-natives. Each of them have their own advantages. So probably now what we have to consider is which one is more efficient in being able to create a kind of condition to help language learners move forward in their learning process. So it all comes down to the skills and ability of the teacher. Another difference that we may observe in a classroom that's run by ELF principles is the way they look at the use of native language. Following audiolingual principles, some people believe that native language should not be used in the classroom because native language might impede the learning process. They also believe that the use of native language may deprive students of the opportunity to get exposed to the target language. However, ELF proponents believe that native language use, especially when teachers and students share the same language, might actually help or facilitate learning process. They believe that what is important is not the quantity of exposure, but the quality of exposure. And they believe that the judicious use of native language can reduce the cognitive demand on learners' mental processing and help them actually acquire a second language. They might also send this message to the language learners that their culture and their first language is also valuable, and that might boost their motivation. The use of L1 is also in line with the current policy observed in Europe and in the world in terms of language learning, where multilingualism and multiculturalism is promoted. Assessment might be another area where following ELF principles might create a difference. Here, instead of measuring students' success through their proximity to native language performance, we might measure students' success in their ability to communicate and ability to avoid communication breakdown. So that might probably require interaction between two non-native speakers. We might just expect non-native speakers to interact with other non-native speakers and see if they could avoid communication breakdown. So we might expect our students to interact with someone from Nigeria, for example, and see that they could understand the person despite their Nigerian accent, and see that if they could use communicative strategies to avoid the failure in communication and to repair communication breakdown. So we talked about how an ELF-aware language class is different from other regular classes. We said that the difference is usually reflected in several areas, including the objectives of the lesson, the type of materials used in the lesson, the difference between native and non-native language teachers, the role of native language and the way we measure students' success in learning a second language. Thank you for listening and have a good day.